I'm Nilika Mehrotra. I am a professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, India.
Hello, I'm Soumendra Patnaik. I teach anthropology at the University of Delhi.
Anthropology has to be part of interdisciplinary teams. I feel that anthropologists have a unique perspective to contribute to research and teaching in different areas, like for instance medicine. Similarly, in business school also, anthropologists have a lot to contribute in terms of understanding organizational culture, understanding clients or customers' choices and behavior. And anthropologists are uniquely placed in terms of bringing understanding to these diverse fields.
If you are specifically asking about uh, teaching anthropology outside the university system, I would say anthropological insight, primarily in terms of methodology, the qualitative methods, and primarily in terms of the research tools. They are being used by non-government organizations, and many times there are capacity building programs where this constitutes a part of the training or part of the teaching. And anthropology is also taught in a very tangential way in schools of mass communication, journalism, and little bit in terms of administrative officers training. Indian Institute of Public Administration organizes courses to teach the officers or train the officers in in dealing with indigenous question, the tribal question in India. So outside university setup, the teaching of anthropology is still very minimal, and there is a urgent need to work on this area so that anthropology becomes a part of the curriculum in other distinct fields which my colleague just mentioned about. There are many anthropologists who claim themselves to be the practicing anthropologist. And there was also an association which was known as Network of Practicing Anthropologists. That existed for a while but could not gain the momentum it desired to gain. So there are also sporadic associations which claim themselves to be alumni associations. But these alumni associations of different institutions, of different universities, they nurture a, an enduring identity of an anthropologist. So people who are working in different fields, they still claim themselves to be anthropologists, and they try to pitch in the anthropological perspective.
Anthropology as anthropology does not exist, but anthropological component is there in the school education in curriculum. Like for instance, theory of evolution, which anthropologists really talk about, is discussed in the social science curriculum. So anthropology is a part of social science curriculum is there, but students actually don't really get to know that there is a discipline called anthropology, whereas sociology is there in the school curriculum, in secondary school curriculum.
What is more important is the neophytes should acquire the nuanced meaning of the discipline. And the nuanced meaning of the discipline, the areas of grey, is best understood when it is put or when it is pitched in the light of comparative understanding. Say, for example, comparative understanding of dealing with environment, comparative understanding of dealing with cosmologies, comparative understanding of dealing with religion, dealing with self, dealing with other. And these kind of comparisons anthropology can provide much more effectively than any other discipline. And in the time, contemporary time, when we are war torn, when we are fought with ethnic stripes, not only in global south but in global north. So, in such a situation, what is more important is anthropologists or the neophytes in anthropology. If we train the students in anthropological perspective, they would develop a sensitivity to understand the other, and this sensitivity could be in terms of becoming a responsible citizen. That if you are a responsible citizen of India, you will respect citizens from other countries. So the how this global citizenship is an evolving concept, and global citizenship instills the sense of mutual respect and dignity, and this is precisely a very powerful a very powerful area of human personality that anthropology can contribute very significantly. But it's a long way. We have to struggle hard to impress upon the policymakers and decision makers that anthropology is not a subject, it's not a discipline, but it is a perspective to humanity. It's a perspective to humanity which has come out of a comparative understanding of the other. Forget about how colonizers have used it. Let us find out how the builders of future are going to use it. So the use of anthropology is having its shifting terrains from abuse of anthropology by colonizers to effective use of anthropology by the builders of future, the modern nation makers.
So, school curriculum actually is regularly revised, and gender is definitely a very important aspect which has entered the school curriculum. And besides that, this multiculturalism, uh, there is a phrase in Indian context, unity in diversity, is something that we have always been talking about. um, then nationalism is a theme which is recurrent. um, there are also the issue of peace and coexistence that we have been talking about, because we have a legacy of Mahatma Gandhi and from our anti-colonial movements. Uh, Peace, non-violence, these are some of the themes that are regularly taught to the students. Indian culture, there is no Indian culture as such, because it's so diverse. But if one were to think in terms of Indian culture, one would think in terms of coexistence of such amazing, diverse populations together and in peace and in harmony. I think anthropology has much to contribute there. Anthropology also contributes in terms of understanding the inequalities and resistance, which is again very important themes that you find at the school level. Actually, anthropology was, when the nation became, when the India became free, I would say, from colonialism, anthropology was being seen as a colonial discipline, which and castigated to some extent. So, and sociology came up around that time in a very strong way, especially focusing on rural development. So, India's development was seen in terms of developing village institutions. Um, they were also very important scholars who tried to build the disciplines and sociology in a very positive way, in a very strong way, which led to opening of sociology in many colleges and universities. Whereas anthropology, I would say, that lagged behind a bit because of weaker, I won't say weak, but relatively weaker scholars, and also contradictions within, because anthropologists being fourfold discipline, it had its own contradictions. Sociologists were also closer to policymakers. So I think one could attribute the rise of sociology and also this being taught at the level of school to the initiatives taken by sociologists who were also actually anthropologists. You know, they had part anthropology training, part sociology training. So anthropologists have not really tried hard enough to get anthropology at school level because it was also thought that anthropology is a very complex discipline and you cannot simplify, you know, the concepts to such an extent at school level that it dilutes its perspective. So I would think that anthropologists are not, at least I don't see them very keen on opening anthropology at school level, but definitely at undergrad level.
Why anthropology not in the schools and why sociology in the schools? As he has said, the association of anthropologists with the colonialism contributed significantly for its distancing from the new state. So the leaders of the new state looked at the anthropologists, I mean after independence, with a questioning attitude that whether they are able to deliver justice to the downtrodden, to the people of the, once they have served the colonial masters. So this relationship between anthropology and colonialism or colonizers is one of the points. The second point is anthropology received greater input from the Western scholarship in terms of, let us say, Redcliffe Brown, W.H.R. Rivers, Malinowski. They trained, and Evans Pritchard,
Hedden.
Haydn, they have all trained many of the anthropologists who
In
later
India.
on moved to sociology. So anthropology as a discipline has been producing good scholarship but unable to retain it. And that kind of movement of the scholars has contributed directly or indirectly to the disciplinary feeble voice. So the third point would be that anthropology, as we all know, is not a single discipline. Tim Ingold has talked about it, that it is having four subfields and each encumbered with its theory and methods. So, so that kind of disciplinary force which should have come up within anthropology is still awaited. The all the branches together contributing significantly something the to the society, to the, but if you talk of each subfield, they have contributed significantly. Social anthropology, biological anthropology, linguistic anthropology, and prehistoric archaeology, they have contributed significantly to society, to nation. But you know, together, that current is missing somewhere. So, at the school level, we need that collective current together, because otherwise, what would we introduce to the children? So maybe that is one of the reasons why anthropology has found a place in undergraduate, but not in the school level. And finally, it could also be the point that maybe the opportune moment in history has not come, and maybe at some point of time, the planners and administrators and decision makers would decide that how anthropology could contribute significantly for a better understanding of humanity, and therefore it needs to be introduced in the school level.